What were your earliest experiences in electronic music? How did you get involved?
I got into making music via DJing, which I started originally like putting records on turntables. I started in the late 80s, and DJing in the understanding of electronic dance music is something that I then discovered summer 91, when I visited friends in Berlin for a week, and they introduced me to a new music style that didn't exist in Vienna back then, by bringing me to Tresor. And that's how I discovered electronic dance music. My understanding of DJing changed, and like a year later or so, I started slowly, step by step, making music. I started with actually somebody else's gear. It was Christopher Just, who we didn't really have plans to work together already. Like Christopher Just is the guy I made, or I'm still doing Ilsa Gold together. But he was already making music. He knew already that there's like these instruments that you need to have to be able to make techno. And he had to move his stuff out from his flat because his girlfriend said, like, either the instruments go or I go. So he brought his Casio FZ1, his 909 and his 303 to my place, and that's how we started, together with an Atari Mega 2, I think, with a crack of Cubase 2.
How did that connect with what was happening in Vienna at the time?
I come from 80s new wave industrial music. And so my connection to any kind of electronically produced dance music before techno simply didn't exist. So I had no connect or contact to any club or party dance culture before. When I started making parties, there were no other parties. So it was me and 4 or 5 other people who started making techno parties in Vienna in 91. The first one was with a friend from back then who is still active as DJ Sirius, and it was called Technodrome with 2K, and I was very active doing parties till 97. Yeah, so like from 91 to 97, I was making at least one party a month, sometimes more, and DJing and producing, and also for some part, like 94, 95, also playing a lot of shows outside of Austria.
And then you also started producing as Pure or DJ Pure.
As I said, like DJing was like my first way of producing or of performing music. And from that, I just moved on. Then we built the studio together in my living room or in my flat. And I started recording tracks in 92, mostly solo, and then also like some occasionally we worked together to make like the first Ilsa Gold productions. And then I had a bunch of tracks ready in 93 or so that I thought that would make sense. And at one of my parties, I booked 2 artists from the States, Jethro X, who was teaching, who's Kurt Eckes, the guy who runs Dropbase Network, and Delta 9. I played the tracks to Kurt back then, and he offered me to release them on Dropbase Network, and that was my first solo release called Analog Terror.
Then you started your own label?
My own label, Loop Records, which was actually all releases of me working with someone else, which were usually guests at my parties, or artists that I booked for my parties, for my loop parties. And then I also started recording stuff which didn't really fit into this style, which then became my side project, Current 909. And then I released 2 records on another label which I called Atmosfear. This was 97, I think, or 96 or 97.
There were several labels you ran, Loop, then Atmosfear. We started Subversion together, and later there was Doc.
There's a Doc Records is something I started much later, not before 2000, or maybe even later. I'm not sure. This represented my, let's say, second period of music making. I had my first period, which was like this, which started with techno and then ended in what in the 90s was called hardcore, which is different from what people nowadays understand under this term. When I stopped doing that in like 98, I think, 97, I got much more interested into abstract electronic computer music, and Doc Records is the label that released music from these days. So this was active between maybe 2000 or so till 2004, 5.
And then why did you stop running labels?
Because I'm a terrible label boss. And I just decided to stop damaging myself, or my own career and other people's career by releasing my and their music myself. I think that everybody else is better than me in releasing and promoting and distributing and everything that you need to do when you run a label.
But also in this period, the business changed.
Yeah, that's true. This was like, I was just, when I started in the 90s, it was like, business was good enough. You didn't have to have a clue. You just made some records and some distribution bought it and some shops sold it. And maybe you sometimes even got money for it and sometimes you didn't, but it worked. It worked without marketing and promotion and building a brand or whatever you have to do. I don't know. And this changed in the early 2000s. Dawn of the internet and MP3 and all that stuff. And my label activities, or the end of my label activities, were just another victim of this time, where the market shrunk, and actually everyone who wasn't committed enough or wasn't like not able to kind of adopt to these new rules just died out.
You also moved.
I wanted to leave Vienna already for many years before I finally did in 2004, and I was undecided where to go. But I used to live in Berlin in the 80s for 1 year, and in the early 2000s, I had actually really many friends already in Berlin. And then at one point, I thought it's actually the natural decision to move to Berlin. It was, at least back then anyway, probably the most exciting city when it comes to music. Or maybe it still is. I don't know. And it was just much more lively and chaotic and everything that Vienna is not. And I felt like if I stay in Vienna, then I'll just get as old and lazy as all my friends. And I didn't feel like I'm already old enough to kind of prepare for retirement.
You stopped putting out vinyl around the turn of the century and became more interested in the CD format and in albums rather than 12 inches.
Yeah, but this had actually not really anything to do with the format. It's just that my musical focus changed. Yeah. So I didn't do like dance music anymore, where you make like single tracks and then you put them on vinyl, because it was like the natural format for DJing. I moved, or I developed towards just listening music, and the natural format for listening music was CD back then. Also because you could put much more time on, or you had like more time on a CD. And if you, depending on how you make your music, if it's like not as precisely produced as many dance tracks are, if it's more live recordings of improvisations and things like this, then you automatically have like longer pieces. And it's a different music genre, and it has different rules or different, I don't know, habits. And it was just like natural to make albums.
And what about files?
Doesn't work for me. I think I just missed that. I'm probably too old. I'm probably too old. I don't know. I mean, it took me years to buy my first CD. And yeah, it took me a long time to kind of adopt to this new format of CDs. And with digital, it just, I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I have gigabytes of music on my hard disks, and an absolutely unusable iTunes that has tons of copies of the same tracks because they have been copied to some different disk, and the application is too stupid to figure it all out. I don't know, digital. If I listen to something from my computer, then it just doesn't feel real to me. It just doesn't. I use Bandcamp, I use SoundCloud, I use Mixcloud, but that's all, I don't know, something's missing. And it's probably me, it's not the format.
But you did eventually return to vinyl again.
Yeah. Well, my musical interest shifted back from, let's say, experimental music to more well-produced dance music again. It started, when did it start? Like, it started around 2010, roughly. A bit later, yeah. And the first outcome of this change of direction is actually the Boulder album on Mego, together with Martin Maischon. This was the first vinyl, I think, that I did again. This was 2014. It was for the same reason that I moved, that I changed from vinyl to CD. I changed back from CD to vinyl because I think for this kind of music, it's the physical format that makes sense. Of course, DJing changed a lot since the 90s. So you would anyway, either you play the files or you play vinyl. That's what you do. And that's why I moved back to vinyl.
And in terms of your musical production, how has technology influenced or shaped the way you make music?
Well, I started obviously with hardware because that's what you had to do in the early 90s. And I luckily had a very big collection of analog gear, or of gear. And around 97, I started to discover computer music. And, or like like mid 90s, computers got like fast enough that you could actually play more than one or two audio channels without expensive external audio hardware or so, just with the built-in hardware. And I discovered the computer as an instrument for electronic music in 97, and in 98 then I discovered a new tool for me, which is a programming language called MaxMSP, or used to be called MaxMSP, And this introduced me to audio software programming, which got my full attention then for almost 10 years, 24/7. And so I was only focusing on computer. I sold all my old gear. Unfortunately, or fortunately, at least for the moving. And I worked entirely in the box, as you say, only using MIDI controllers as physical interfaces. This stayed like this until 2015, maybe, when I slowly started buying hardware again. But this, of course, was also because of my musical interest shifted. And I'm now using both. I've not huge, but like nice selection of fancy Eurek modules. And I've actually 2 drum machines again, and I bought a 303 clone. And I'm using this for production, but I haven't moved back to hardware. Right now, I'm so into making music that I have 100% control over. That even record hardware, it always ends up in Ableton Live, and then gets like the final treatment there. Final arrangement and mixing and everything.
Back to your musical history, to a project that seems quite different from your solo work, Ilsa Gold.
Almost the antipole. This Ilsa Gold happened without any plan or concept, and there was no master plan, and there was also no origin, or no like we couldn't build on anything. Because we are from Austria, we're from Vienna, and there was nothing. There was no history that we could continue. It happened because Christoph and me have the same humor, and we are musically extremely different. So we pretty much don't like any music that the other one likes, except for very specific, narrow kind of like, there's like certain styles of techno that we agree on, which is mainly underground resistance. And when we started making music, it was because he had his stuff in my flat, and he kind of knew how to use them. So I was curious. I learned. I did my first steps then, and we were just like trying out stuff, and we recorded tracks that just happened because I don't even know why. It's just. At the beginning, it was just like random tracks that recorded, and then we found out that if this one thing where we can like work together the best, and actually also the only way we can work together is if we actually put chokes into kind of a rave costume. That's the like internal jokes between him and me. That's how we came up with all the funny tracks that people so hated back then. I've now said it like already several times in the last 10 years maybe, but people hated us. Every serious producer, techno producer back then fucking hated us for being funny, for making fun of things, for being successful, for playing all the big raves in Germany that the others don't play, and all that without even like we didn't even do anything to make this happen. So we had no promotion or no manager and no booker and nothing like this. It all just happened. And it went really quickly. I mean, we had like the first release was 94, I think, no? And when we released the first record, we already had the tracks for the next 2 records done. They were just like on the DATs. And then we released the second one, the second one, and then, which was maybe a bigger hit even than the first one, I'm not sure. And then for the third one, we came up, I think like when we drafted the third release, it was the first time that we started to come up with some sort of concept for something. Because we made this very ravey release, and at the same time we made this super serious, dark, intelligent, Detroitish acid techno album called Winterreise, with a super kitschy cover. And we knew that, we were sure that all the distros and all the shops, they will all buy them, and then they will put it on the turntable, and it's like, well, that's Ilsa Gold, but that's not funny. What is that? And this is exactly what happened. When we released them, we released these 2 records at the same time, Ilsa Gold 3 and Winterreise, and all the distros, they bought the same amount of both. And when they reordered Ilsa Gold 3, they sent back Winterreise. This went on for like another 2 years or so, maybe 95, 96. And then I was just so sick of everything that was related to this project. I especially like the live shows that we played. And I just stepped out, and I didn't talk about this project for over 5 years. Even like if someone like asked me about Ilsa Gold, I was like, I don't know what that is. Never heard of. I don't know what me? No, you must confuse me with somebody. And then sometime in the 2000s, we occasionally came together and made the odd track or some joke, and we actually still are best friends, and still once in a while do some stuff. We made this really funny track, which I'm really proud of, that we did this in like 2017, and it's a bizarre collage of news footage combined with classic gabba samples and screaming and noise. It was our hatred against the Austrian government back then that we poured into this track. And besides that, we had Ilsa Gold. No, not Ilsa Gold. Sons of Ilsa. Yeah, we also made Sons of Ilsa. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I can talk for hours about that. It's we had this huge hit. We got into legal troubles for that. That's Ilsa Gold.
Enough of the past. What are your plans for the future?
Quite diligently working on music almost every day. I'm for many months. I think that I'm almost done with my next EP, which will be as under Pure, and which will somehow be in the style of the mid-90s, kind of. And besides that, I have so many unfinished tracks. I'll definitely want to do more Car 909 stuff. I'm so terribly slow with finishing tracks that I gave up planning anything to avoid any disappointment on my side and also on possible label side. I just slowly work myself through tracks, and when they're finished enough, then I'll look around and see what I can do with them.